U.S. cannabis company Eaze pays supervisors less than those they oversee, workers say. The largest cannabis delivery service in the U.S. faces a growing backlash in Southern California from shift supervisors who said they are paid less than the workers they supervise, struggle to make ends meet on low and stagnant wages, and are at odds with the company over their right to form a union. Nearly 600 delivery drivers at Eaze in California voted to unionize in 2023 with United Food and Commercial Workers and secured a first contract earlier this year after threatening to strike in April. More of the firm's workers have unionized this year. An additional 100 drivers and staff at other California depots joined UFCW Local 770, while drivers in Sacramento unionized in March with the Teamsters, but shift supervisors have been left in limbo. Supervisors at Eaze are awaiting decisions from the National Labor Relations Board. While the company has argued they are unable to form a union because they are in management roles, workers claim they should be allowed to unionize due to low pay and lack of authority. Eaze has been plagued by financial troubles. Its assets were sold at public auction to an unidentified buyer last month. For now, the company claims it is unable to make changes to workers' pay. "I am not making enough money to survive," said one shift supervisor at Eaze in the Los Angeles area, who requested to remain anonymous for fear of retaliation. "I'm on food stamps, but those benefits have started to decrease. I can't afford to repair my car if it needs it. I can't afford to eat out. And I'm not the only person that's going through these kinds of financial problems." Workers said their most recent pushes for raises to the company have gone ignored, with staff receiving no annual wage increases. "The number we were asking for was $27 an hour, the shift supervisor recalled, but we were planning on negotiating down to $25 an hour plus a yearly wage structure. Because, as it is right now, we are functionally running the depots. They see us as the lowest on the totem pole, and they just don't feel the need to compensate us. They treat us as if we are extremely replaceable, and they keep adding responsibilities to our plate every day." Staff alleged they have been cross-trained to perform duties outside the scope of their jobs without being compensated for doing so, and that they struggle to live on $18 an hour, just above the $17.24 an hour minimum wage in Los Angeles County. The labor strife at Eaze comes as the cannabis industry has been steadily growing in the U.S. as more states have legalized recreational use. The sector's workforce rose by 5.4% last year. Annual sales increased in 2023 by 10.4% to $28.8 billion. Labor unions have been organizing workers in the industry to try to ensure this growth and expansion doesn't come at the expense of workers. Other shift supervisors at Eaze, who also spoke on the condition of anonymity, described their struggles with their current level of pay. "The drivers make more than us now, which, if we're supposed to be their management, makes no sense to us," said another supervisor in the Los Angeles area, who explained that drivers make over $20 an hour plus mileage compensation and tips. "It's happened so many times where a couple days before payday, I don't know if I'm going to have enough gas to even make it to work, and I've actually borrowed money from drivers. Some of them are comfortable enough with lending me money like that, but also it's kind of embarrassing that I'm supposed to be your supervisor, but I need to borrow money from you because I don't know if I can actually make it to work." They also alleged the depot where they work has been plagued with pest infestations, including mice, roaches, and ants, and claim that they are frequently understaffed and have to take on extra workloads if a coworker calls out or leaves early. This makes it difficult to be able to take breaks the supervisor said, adding that their depot manager rarely shows up on site because they manage 2 depots simultaneously. When a manager does decide to show up, it feels very much like an absentee parent trying to spend time with their kid, they added. Everyone currently employed is looking for a different job. A third shift supervisor in the Los Angeles area said, "It feels like I'm gasping for air some weeks getting simple things like groceries that I have to hold off while I get by on peanut butter and jelly sandwiches." The supervisor said they had been delaying medical care because they could not afford the out-of-pocket cost even with health insurance. "We're currently fighting for a wage raise, and there's been no confirmation from the company whatsoever that we're going to get that raise," they said. Then you look at McDonald's, for example. Standard employees are making $20 an hour, and that's not even supervisors or managers. That's standard employees. Nobody should have to come in at a supervisory or management role for minimum wage. An inventory specialist supervisor at Eaze in the Los Angeles area alleged a lack of organization inside the company. To get an answer from somebody in upper management to figure out and process things properly, it's like a game of telephone, they said. Who wants to pick up the phone? And who's going to tell us what to do? And then it may be the right or wrong answer. A unionized driver at Eaze in the Los Angeles area explained that pay discrepancy has caused issues with morale and the work environment. Although we won our contract, I'm most disappointed about the fact that they were successful in keeping the supervisors out of the union because they're on their own. They have no one to advocate for them, and they're clearly being taken advantage of, the driver said. It's pretty clear they were given a title to keep them from unionizing. They don't get paid like management. They're underpaid, and they don't have authority to really do much. Eaze declined to comment on the record. The company's assets were sold at auction on August 6 amid ongoing strife between investors, including the billionaire founder of Netscape, James Clark. The company also said it is currently working with a new ownership to maintain operations and employees. It claimed to be complying with the collective bargaining agreement with the United Food and Commercial Workers. The headline is, U.S. cannabis company Eaze pays supervisors less than those they oversee, workers say. And then my quick take is shift supervisors deserve better. They're not getting paid like executives, but they do more work than executives. Shift supervisors deserve the protections of a union. The story shows that unions help create middle-class jobs. This is Omar Figueroa, lawyer, publisher, and Ganjier instructor, reporting from Sonoma County, California, the traditional territory of the Pomo, Miwok, and Wapo nations, for High at 9, high noon Eastern.
Man,
Like
here's why it's different with Eaze, right? Because the managers don't have to actually be part of the licensed ownership, right? Eaze doesn't own any of the license they operate out of. They operate out of them. So if they're hired in a management position, I can then hire them to my holdings company, or what actually Eaze is, which is not a licensed entity, which is not beholden to the same unionized standards as other licensed cannabis operators, right? Whereas in the city of LA, when I get to 16 or 20 employees, I have to unionize those employees. Whereas a driver who is touching cannabis and transporting cannabis has to be directly employed by the license holder, which is how Eaze is skirting that for their little situation, which is gross. It's also how Eaze has screwed up the tax situations for a lot of these operators that they're operating out of, because it's not Eaze's taxes, it is Eaze's taxes, but because they're not the license holder, they're able to skirt a lot of the responsibility that should come down on them fairly.
Man, I'll tell you.
Well, I've had many internal discussions with my clients about how they compensate their employees. Mm-hmm. And as Jenny Beth said, if you're a delivery driver, you have to be employed under the regulations. You've got to be employed by the license holder. I move everything else off into a management company, holding company, for 280E reasons. And when you sit down with your clients who own these businesses and crunch the numbers, it doesn't look pretty. The regulatory and tax climate we live in is hard. And, you know, my grandpa was a Teamster, so I'm very sympathetic to organized labor, but my other grandfather owned liquor stores. I'm also sympathetic to try and pay the bills, and there just isn't an easy answer right now. And these people are being treated like shit, but California's labor's laws are difficult to navigate if you're an employer. They're there isn't a good answer here, Omar. And the problem is these aren't profitable enough businesses to really offer a lot of the perks that most businesses offer their employees.
Well,
that's true. I mean, if you look at, for example, like fast food businesses in California, they don't have to contend with 280E. And so they're able to write off the rent and the employee cost and write everything else off. And they're able to run profitable businesses. But because of 280E and the inability to write off a lot of those costs, the cannabis industry is at a disadvantage. But that doesn't mean that gives license to treat these shift supervisors in a way that, if I was the shift supervisor, I would demote myself. I'd be like, I'm going to be a driver. Why would I? Or like, everybody else is already looking for a job. That's a great way to run an organization into the ground. When everybody leaves, they have to train everybody from scratch all over again, but there's nobody to train them. What a train wreck that's going to be.
You know how this whole thing started, Omar? This whole thing started with the drivers striking to get a higher pay rate a few months ago. And now you have the whole other side saying, hey, now these people are getting paid more than us, so we should be able to strike to get paid more. And meanwhile, Eaze doesn't make enough money to pay them that.
It's not about getting paid more. It's about getting paid enough that you don't have to, that you can make it to work, you have enough gas to make it to work, and that you don't have to eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches as a full-time employee. We're not talking about like
you really believe all that gaslighting right there by them? I'm not buying that.
We're not. I'm buying that. I believe that people are barely getting by.
I believe that's because of inflation, though. That's not because of what they're getting paid.
That's going on, and that sucks. And there should be a cost of living pay raise, is what Eaze should do. They should do a cost of living increase as good, decent people. But we know that they're not trying to operate as good, decent people, or they wouldn't leave all these other people holding the blame and the issues that they create. So, I mean, if we're being reasonable about this, I would quit if it was me. I also do understand that there comes a time when I find out that this is why employees aren't supposed to discuss each other's pay, right, in the business, because it's not your business what I'm paying Jason or what I'm paying Dale or what I'm paying Omar, right? When this happens and they're in a unionized and they're striking in such a public way and it's made an issue where there's no way that you don't know, then that puts them in another little conundrum here. But I mean, there's a lot to be said for living within your means. It also sucks when you don't have the means to live one way or another.